In the heart of the galaxy, nestled among the swirling violet nebulae of the Andromeda Reach, stood the celestial spire, a palace carved from living crystal and suspended above the emerald clouds of the planet Virilia. Its towers shimmered with bioluminescent veins, pulsing in time with the planet's twin moons, and its halls echoed with the whispers of ancient star songs. It was here that Queen Zanara of the Verdant Dominion made her most unexpected and most scandalous decision. With the weight of war pressing on her brow and rebellion simmering in the outer systems, she descended from her throne one twilight, her green skin glowing faintly under the palace's ambient light, her long white hair braided with threads of stardust. Beside her stood her only child, Princess Lyra, equally green-skinned but with eyes like molten gold and hair that fell in silken waves of pure white, untouched by time or sorrow. The girl was barely of age by Virilian reckoning, yet already possessed a quiet wisdom that unnerved even the royal seers. Without fanfare or counsel, Queen Zanara summoned a human, a rarity in these halls, named Joran Vale. He wasn't a warrior or a diplomat, but a botanist from Earth's terraforming core, stranded on Virilia after his ship malfunctioned during a diplomatic exchange gone awry. He had spent the last 2 years cataloging the planet's luminous flora, earning quiet respect for his gentle hands and sharp mind. Now, standing before the throne in his patched field uniform, he looked more bewildered than regal. The queen fixed him with a gaze that could freeze lava. "You will care for her," she said, her voice resonant as a gong struck in deep space. "Teach her your world. Keep her safe. And when I return from the Outer Rim War, I expect grandchildren." With that, she turned, her royal robes flaring like comet tails, and vanished into her starship, which launched before anyone could protest. Joran stood frozen, heart hammering against his ribs. Around him, the courtiers exchanged glances, some amused, others furious. Lyra, however, merely tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his palms sweat. She didn't speak for 3 full days. Instead, she followed him through the palace gardens, silent as moonlight, watching as he coaxed rare moon blossoms into bloom with earth techniques. On the 4th morning, she finally spoke. "You talk to plants like they're people," she said, her voice melodic but edged with curiosity. "Do you talk to people like they're plants?" Joran nearly dropped his watering can. "Only the ones who don't listen," he replied without thinking. To his surprise, she laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a solar storm, and from that moment, an unlikely friendship began to take root. Life in the celestial spire soon settled into a strange rhythm. Joran taught Lyra about Earth, its oceans, its music, its messy, chaotic beauty, while she showed him the secrets of Virilian sky dances and how to read the emotions of the palace's sentient walls. She adored his stories of snow and street food. He marveled at her ability to summon rain with a song. Yet beneath the laughter and shared meals, tension simmered. The royal council, led by the hawk-eyed Lord Vexer, viewed Joran as an interloper, a soft-skinned mammal unworthy of proximity to the heir. Worse, rumors spread that Queen Zanara's war was going badly, and that factions within the Dominion were plotting to seize power, using Lyra's abduction by a human as justification for a coup. One evening, as Joran and Lyra sat on the Starfall balcony watching meteor showers paint the sky, she turned to him, her golden eyes serious. "My mother doesn't just want grandchildren," she said softly. "She wants proof that humans and Virilians can truly bond, not just in body, but in soul. That our bloodlines can merge without breaking." Joran swallowed. "And what do you want?" She looked away, toward the distant glow of the war front. "I want to choose," she whispered, "not be chosen for." Their fragile peace shattered a week later. A bomb, crude, human-made, detonated in the lower gardens. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Someone on Virilia had Earth allies, and they wanted Joran gone. That night, cloaked assassins scaled the palace walls. Joran, roused by the scent of ozone and fear, grabbed Lyra and fled through secret passages she'd shown him. Tunnels woven from memory vines that only responded to royal blood. As they ran, Lyra activated ancient defenses. Thorned vines lashed out, ensnaring their pursuers, while the palace itself groaned in protest, its crystalline structure shifting to block escape routes. But one attacker broke through, a Virilian rebel with cybernetic claws and eyes full of hate. He lunged for Lyra, snarling about pure blood. Joran, unarmed, did the only thing he could. He threw himself in front of her. The claws raked his side, searing with poison, But before the assassin could strike again, Lyra unleashed a sonic scream, a royal technique forbidden to those under age. The sound wave shattered the attacker's implants and sent him crashing into a wall, unconscious. Bleeding and trembling, Joran collapsed. Lyra, tears streaking her green cheeks, dragged him to a hidden sanctuary beneath the palace. A chamber lined with healing moss and starlight wells. With shaking hands, she applied poultices made from dreamroot and comet ash, whispering old lullabies to keep him awake. "Don't you dare die," she hissed, her voice cracking. "You haven't even taught me how to make that earth thing." "The pancake?" Joran managed a weak grin. "With blueberries?" She nodded fiercely. "Yes, with blueberries." He squeezed her hand. "Then I'll live." As he healed, their bond deepened in ways neither expected. Lyra began to see Joran not as a placeholder or a political tool, but as someone who saw her, not the princess, not the heir, just Lyra. And Joran, once intimidated by her otherworldly grace, now admired her courage, her humor, the way she'd sneak fermented nectar into his tea just to see him sputter. One rainy afternoon, while repairing a damaged hydroponic array, he caught her staring at him. "What?" he asked, wiping grease from his brow. "You're a very human," she said. "And that's a compliment?" She smiled. "The highest." But danger never slept. Lord Vexor, now openly leading the opposition, declared Lyra compromised by Terran influence and demanded her sequestration until the Queen's return. Worse, intercepted comms revealed that Queen Zanara's flagship had been ambushed near the Krelian belt. She was missing, presumed captured. Panic rippled through the Dominion. Without a clear heir, and with Lyra's legitimacy questioned due to her closeness to a human, the council moved to install Vexor as regent. The night before the emergency conclave, Lyra made a choice. She kissed Joran, not out of duty, not because of her mother's command, but because her heart demanded it. It was soft, tentative, tasting of starfruit and fear. When she pulled away, her eyes shimmered. "If they take me tomorrow," she said, "promise me you'll run, go back to Earth. Live." Joran cupped her face. "And miss your blueberry pancakes? Not a chance." He kissed her again, deeper this time as if sealing a vow. The next day, the palace erupted. Vexor arrived with armored guards, demanding Lyra's surrender. But she stood at the throne dais, clad in armor of woven moonsteel, her white hair braided with battle sigils. "I am Lyra of House Zanara," she declared, voice ringing through the hall. "Heir to the verdant dominion, and I choose Joran Vale, not as my keeper, but as my consort." Gasps filled the chamber. Vexor sneered. "A human? You disgrace your bloodline." "No," Lyra shot back. "I expand it." Before Vexor could order her arrest, alarms blared. A fleet unmarked, brutal, descended from orbit. Raiders from the Void Maw, long thought extinct, had come to plunder Virilia in its moment of weakness. Chaos erupted. Guards scrambled. The palace shields flickered under plasma bombardment. In the confusion, Vexor tried to flee, but Lyra stopped him. "You wanted power?" she said coldly. "Defend your home, or be remembered as a coward." Shamed, he rallied his troops. Joran, meanwhile, did what he did best. He improvised. Using his knowledge of Earth engineering and Virilian biotech, he jury-rigged the palace's defense grid, syncing it with the planet's magnetic core. As Lyra led aerial fighters in her personal skiff, dodging fire with acrobatic grace, Joran directed energy pulses from below, creating electromagnetic pulses that disabled enemy ships without harming Virilian vessels. It was messy, brilliant, and utterly human. In the final hour, as the Raiders' command ship loomed over the spire, Lyra flew straight into its hangar bay, planting explosive seed pods in its reactor core. She barely escaped before it detonated in a bloom of green fire that lit the sky for hours. When she landed, battered but alive, Joran was waiting. He didn't say a word, just pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she might vanish. In the aftermath, everything changed. Vexor knelt before Lyra, not out of fear, but respect. The people hailed her as the Starfire Princess. And Joran? He was no longer the stranded botanist. He was Joran Vale, consort of the heir, defender of the spire, and, though no one dared say it aloud, the future father of a new lineage. Weeks passed. The palace rebuilt. The gardens bloomed brighter than ever. And in a quiet corner of the East Wing, Joran finally taught Lyra how to make blueberry pancakes. She burned the first 3 batches. He ate them anyway. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the twin moons rise, A comm signal crackled to life. It was faint, broken, but unmistakable. Queen Zanara's voice. Lyra, Joran, I'm coming home. The transmission cut out, but the message was clear. Lyra leaned into Joran's shoulder. She'll ask about the grandchildren, she murmured. He smiled. Let her wait, because love, they'd learned, wasn't about fulfilling commands. It was about choosing each other. Again and again, amidst chaos, war, and burnt pancakes. And in the heart of the celestial spire, beneath alien stars and human dreams, something new was growing. Not just a child, perhaps, but a future where two worlds could finally bloom as one. The return of Queen Zanara was not the triumphant homecoming the palace had prepared for. Her flagship, the Dawn's Resolve, limped into orbit trailing smoke and silence. When the docking bay doors hissed open, she emerged not in royal regalia, but in scorched battle armor, her white hair matted with ash, one arm cradled in a biosplint. She looked older, haunted. The war had not been won. It had been abandoned. The Outer Rim had fallen to a new power. The Synthari Collective, a hive mind of cybernetic conquerors who consumed organic civilizations and repurposed them into obedient biomechanical drones. Worse, they had tracked Zanara's escape vector. Virilia was next. Joran and Lyra rushed to meet her in the Grand Atrium, where the queen collapsed to her knees before the ancestral tree root that pulsed at the palace's core. She gripped Lyra's hand with desperate strength. They know about you, she rasped. They know you're different. They want your bloodline. Not to destroy it, to harvest it. Lyra stiffened. Why? Zanara's golden eyes flickered toward Joran. Because your child, half human, half Virilian, carries a genetic key. A mutation that resists their neural assimilation. To them, you're not heirs. You're weapons. Before anyone could process this, the sky darkened. Not with clouds, but with the jagged silhouettes of Synthari dreadnoughts. Their hulls pulsing with living metal, descending like obsidian locusts. The invasion had begun not with warning, but with silence. All comms went dead. The palace shields flickered and died as the Synthari deployed a resonance dampener, a device that disrupted Virilian bioenergy fields, turning their greatest strength into vulnerability. Chaos erupted. Citizens fled to underground sanctuaries. Royal guards fought valiantly but were overwhelmed by biomechanical horrors. Once organic soldiers fused with blackened exoskeletons, their eyes hollow, their voices a chorus of stolen memories. Joran dragged Lyra and Zanara into the lower vaults, where ancient escape tunnels coiled beneath the spire. But Zanara refused to run. This is my world, she growled, activating a hidden armory. I will not let them take it without a reckoning. What followed was a desperate guerrilla war fought in the palace's own halls. Joran, using his knowledge of Earth electromagnetic theory, modified Virilian pulse grenades to emit frequencies that disrupted Synthari neural links. Lyra led strike teams through the ventilation shafts, her agility and royal blood allowing her to command the palace's residual biodefenses. Walls that sprouted thorns, floors that liquefied beneath enemy feet. Zanara, though wounded, became a ghost of vengeance, striking from the shadows with poisoned daggers forged from comet iron. Yet the Synthari adapted. They began capturing Virilians not to kill, but to convert. Within days, former allies returned. Eyes glowing crimson, voices monotone, begging Lyra to join the harmony. One night, a converted Lord Vexer appeared at the sanctuary door, his once proud features now half-mechanical, his voice eerily calm. Surrender the hybrid, he intoned. Your resistance is inefficient. Lyra, heartbroken, fired a sonic bolt that shattered his cranial implant, but not before he whispered, They've already seeded your bloodline. They know she's with child. Lyra froze. She hadn't told anyone, not even Joran. But her body had begun to change, subtly. Her skin shimmered with a faint silver sheen in moonlight. Her dreams were filled with strange visions. A child with green skin, white hair like hers, but eyes the deep blue of Earth's oceans. She'd assumed it was hope. Now, she wondered if the Synthari had somehow sensed the life growing inside her. Joran noticed her withdrawal. One night, he found her weeping in the hydroponic chamber, cradling a sprouting moon blossom. They're not just after Virilia, she whispered. They're after our baby. He knelt beside her, taking her hands. Then we protect them, not as weapons, as people. His calm certainty anchored her. That night, they made a pact. They would not hide. They would fight, not just to survive, but to ensure their child would inherit a free world. Their chance came when Zanara intercepted a Synthari transmission. The collective's central hive mind, the Nexus Core, was aboard their command vessel, the Oblivion Maw, orbiting the planet's dark side. If destroyed, the drones would collapse into chaos. But reaching it required a ship capable of bypassing their dampener field. There was only one. The Starling, a prototype stealth skiff hidden in the palace's deepest vault, designed for royal emergencies. It required 2 pilots, one to navigate, one to channel bioenergy through its crystalline drive. Lyra would fly. Joran would power the drive, using a neural interface that would link his human mind directly to Virilian biotech. It was dangerous. No human had ever attempted it. The risk of brain hemorrhage was high, but Joran didn't hesitate. "Just promise me," he said, strapping in, "that if I start quoting bad Earth poetry, you'll knock me out." The flight was a nightmare. Synthari patrols swarmed the upper atmosphere. Lyra wove through them with impossible grace, her instincts sharpened by maternal instinct. Joran, connected to the ship's core, felt every pulse of Virilian energy as if it were his own heartbeat. Beautiful, terrifying, overwhelming. When they breached the Oblivion Maw's hull, they found not a machine, but a grotesque fusion of organic and synthetic flesh. A pulsating heart of wires and veins, suspended in a vat of glowing fluid. The Nexus Core. But as Joran prepared the plasma charges, the core spoke. Not in words, but in visions. It showed him Earth burning. His parents, his childhood home, consumed by Synthari tendrils. "Join us," it whispered through his mind. "Your child will be safe, your species preserved, as part of us." For a terrifying second, doubt flickered in him. What if surrender meant survival? Then Lyra's voice cut through the haze. "Joran, look at me." He turned. She stood before the core, her hands pressed to her belly, tears streaming down her face. "Our child doesn't need safety," she said fiercely. "They need freedom, and a father who believes in it." That was all he needed. He triggered the charges. The explosion tore through the Oblivion Maw like a supernova. The Synthari fleet shuddered, then went dark, their drones collapsing mid-flight. Virilia was saved, but as their escape pod tumbled toward the planet, alarms blared. The blast had ruptured the pod's oxygen line. Joran, bleeding from his neural interface wounds, sealed the breach with his own body, buying Lyra time to activate the emergency beacon. "You're not dying on me again," she sobbed, gripping his hand. "Not after pancakes." He smiled weakly. "Make the next batch, extra blueberries." They were rescued by Zanara herself, piloting a salvaged skiff. Back on Virilia, the people cheered. The Synthari threat was broken, but Joran lay in the healing chamber, fading. The neural strain had damaged his brain in ways even Virilian medicine couldn't fully repair. Lyra never left his side. She sang to him, the same lullabies she'd used when he was poisoned, now laced with desperation. Zanara watched from the doorway, her expression unreadable. Then, on the 7th night, something miraculous happened. The child within Lyra stirred, and emitted a pulse of pure bioenergy, gentle but potent. It washed over Joran like warm sunlight. His eyes fluttered open. He reached for Lyra's hand, and this time his grip was strong. In the weeks that followed, Virilia began to heal. Refugees returned. The palace bloomed anew, and Queen Zanara, for the first time, stepped down. Not in defeat, but in trust. She named Lyra regent of the Verdant Dominion, with Joran as her royal consort and chief architect of interstellar relations. "You've done more for this world than any of my generals," she told him, her voice thick with emotion. "You gave my daughter a future I never dared imagine." But peace, they knew, was fragile. Scattered Synthari remnants still lurked in the void. Rumors spoke of other hives awakening. And deep in the archives, scholars uncovered an ancient prophecy. When green and blue unite, a star child shall rise, not to rule, but to bridge. Lyra and Joran didn't speak of it. They didn't need to. They felt it in the kicks of their unborn child, in the quiet moments when their hands intertwined, in the way the palace walls now hummed a new song, one that blended Earth's wind with Virilia's starlight. One evening, as they stood on the Starfall balcony, Lyra resting her head on Joran's shoulder, she whispered, "Do you think she'll like blueberries?" He kissed her temple. "She'll probably invent a new fruit just to annoy us." Lyra laughed, the sound echoing through the crystalline towers. And somewhere, in the vast tapestry of stars, a new story was already beginning. Not of war, but of wonder. Months passed, and the verdant dominion flourished under Lyra's regency. The scars of war faded into memory, woven into tapestries and sung in ballads by court poets. Yet beneath the surface calm, ripples of unease stirred. The Synthari may have been broken, but their silence was too perfect, like the hush before a storm. Scouts reported strange energy signatures near the charred belt, where no ship should drift. Ancient Virilian outposts flickered offline without warning. And then came the dreams. Not just Lyra's but Joran's too. Vivid, shared visions of a child standing alone on a shattered moon, hands outstretched toward a sky choked with black vines. The child's eyes were blue, but rimmed with silver, and when they cried, the tears crystallized into tiny stars that floated upward, vanishing into the void. Each time they woke, breathless and clutching each other, they knew. The child in Lyra's womb was not only alive, but aware, reaching across dimensions, warning them. The royal seers confirmed it. The unborn heir was a luminar, a once-in-millennia convergence of Virilian bioresonance and human neural plasticity. Such a being could heal worlds, or unravel them, if corrupted. The Synthari didn't just want to harvest her, whispered Elder Melis, her voice trembling. They wanted to awaken her, to use her as a beacon to summon something older, something that sleeps between galaxies. Joran refused to let fear dictate their path. He poured himself into rebuilding not just defenses but bridges. He opened diplomatic channels with Earth, negotiating the first official human-Virilian alliance. He even convinced the Terran Science Directorate to send a cultural envoy, Dr. Alira Chen, a xenobiologist and old friend from his academy days. Her arrival brought laughter back to the palace halls, and a much-needed perspective. "You're not just expecting a baby," she told Lyra one afternoon, scanning her with a modified biosensor. "You're incubating a cosmic event. Try to get some rest, and eat more protein. Alien or not, pregnancy is pregnancy." But rest was a luxury they couldn't afford. One night, during a routine patrol of the outer sensor grid, a Virilian scout vessel vanished. Not destroyed, erased. Its last transmission showed a swirling vortex of dark energy, humming with a frequency that matched the child's dream tears. Joran and Lyra knew they had to act. Against Zanara's protests, they launched a covert mission aboard the Starling, now upgraded with Earth shielding and Virilian cloaking tech. Their destination, the charred belt. What they found defied comprehension. Floating in the debris field was a derelict Synthari drone, but it wasn't inert. It pulsed with organic light, its mechanical shell blooming with bioluminescent flowers, its voice no longer monotone, but singing a lullaby in Lyra's native tongue. As they approached, the drone turned its face toward them and wept silver tears. "She calls," it whispered. "The sleeper stirs." Before they could react, the vortex reappeared, not as a threat but as a doorway. From it emerged not enemies, but refugees. A ragged fleet of mixed-species ships, their hulls patched with hope and desperation. At their lead was a being neither human nor Virilian. A tall, androgynous figure with violet skin, silver eyes, and armor woven from living vines. They introduced themselves as Kalen of the Sylvan Concord, last of a pacifist order that had hidden for centuries in the galactic rifts. "We felt the Luminar's awakening," Kalen said, bowing deeply. "We come not to take, but to protect. For the sleeper, the devourer of harmonies, is drawn to such light. And it is closer than you think." Kalen revealed the truth. The Synthari hadn't been conquerors. They'd been fleeing. Their hive mind had detected the devourer's approach eons ago and sought to weaponize hybrid lifeforms to create a shield, a living barrier of resistant souls. Their methods were monstrous, but their fear was real. Now, with the Synthari shattered, the devourer had no obstacle. It was coming for Virilia, for the child. Back on the palace world, tensions exploded. Lord Vexer, still recovering from his partial conversion, argued for preemptive strikes. Zanara advocated sealing the planet in a bioquantum bubble, a move that would isolate Virilia for centuries. But Lyra, standing before the royal conclave with Joran at her side and Kalen's fleet hovering in orbit, declared a third path. "We will not hide. We will not strike blindly. We will prepare." She announced the founding of the Celestial Accord, a coalition of humans, Virilians, Sylvans, and any who would stand against the devourer. Training grounds were built in the Sky Gardens. Earth engineers and Virilian mages collaborated on resonance cannons. Even children practiced harmony chants, their voices weaving protective frequencies into the planet's core. Then the child kicked, and the sky split open, not with ships, but with silence. A region of space above Virilia simply stopped existing. Stars winked out. Light bent inward. From the void emerged tendrils of pure antimatter, not destroying, but unmaking, erasing atoms, memories, time itself. The devourer had arrived. Panic threatened to consume the planet. But Lyra, 8 months pregnant and glowing with inner light, climbed to the highest spire of the celestial palace. She placed her hands on the ancestral root and began to sing. Not a battle hymn, but a lullaby Joran had taught her, about a little bluebird who carried the sun in its beak. As she sang, the child within her resonated, sending waves of stabilizing energy through the planet. The unmaking slowed. Joran, leading the Accord's fleet, executed a maneuver no tactician would dare. He flew the starling straight into the heart of the void, not to attack but to broadcast. Using a device forged from Earth radiotech and Virilian soul crystals, he transmitted every song, every story, every laugh ever recorded on Virilia and Earth directly into the Devourer's maw. "You want harmony?" he shouted over the comms, his voice raw. "Here it is, messy, flawed, and full of love." For a moment nothing happened. Then the void shuddered. The Devourer recoiled, not in pain, but in confusion. It had never encountered chaos so beautiful, so defiantly alive. The tendrils withdrew. The stars returned. The silence broke with the sound of a billion heartbeats sinking in relief. In the aftermath, the child was born not in a chamber, but beneath the open sky, as twin moons cast silver halos over the palace gardens. She was named Saren, the dawn that answers. Her first cry didn't echo. It sang, and the moon blossoms bloomed in response. Queen Zanara wept as she held her granddaughter. "You've given us more than an heir," she told Lyra and Joran. "You've given us a future that dares to hope." Years later, Saren would walk the halls of the celestial spire, her green skin shimmering with starlight, her white hair braided with earth wildflowers, her blue eyes seeing not just what was, but what could be. She would learn to speak 100 languages, heal broken worlds with a touch, and yes, she would invent a fruit that tasted like blueberries and moonlight combined, just to tease her father. And on quiet evenings, when the galaxy slept, Joran and Lyra would sit on their balcony, hands entwined, watching their daughter dance with the stars. Proof that love, courage, and a well-timed pancake could change the fate of worlds. Years flowed like starlight through the crystalline halls of the celestial spire, and Saren grew not just in stature, but in wonder. By the time she was 10, she could coax vines to bloom in winter, calm solar storms with a hum, and once, much to Joran's mock horror, teleported an entire tray of blueberry pancakes into orbit just to see if they'd float. They did. She retrieved them before dessert. Her laughter rang through the palace like a chime of pure possibility, and wherever she walked, life flourished in her wake. Flowers sprouted in her footprints. Birds nested in the silver aura that sometimes shimmered around her. Even the palace walls leaned toward her, as if basking in her presence. The Devourer never returned. Scholars debated whether it had been banished, transformed, or simply lulled into a deeper slumber by the harmony Saren embodied. What mattered was that peace held. Not the brittle silence of fear, but the vibrant hum of coexistence. The Celestial Accord became the galaxy's most enduring alliance. Human cities rose beside Virilian sky gardens. Sylvan envoys taught children to listen to the songs of trees. Earth poets wrote epics about green-skinned queens and botanists who saved stars. And at the heart of it all stood the family who had dared to believe that love could be the strongest shield of all. Lyra ruled with grace and fire, her decisions guided not by tradition alone, but by empathy forged in war and motherhood. Joran, now Lord Consort and Chief Architect of Unity, built bridges not just between worlds, but between hearts. He founded the Starlight Academy, a school where human, Virilian, Sylvan, and countless other younglings learned side by side, their differences celebrated, their shared dreams nurtured. He still wore his old field uniform on weekends, still burned half his pancakes, and still held Lyra's hand every night as they watched the twin moons rise. Saren's gifts only deepened with time. On her 16th birthday, she performed the Rite of Resonance, a ceremony where a luminar channels planetary energy to renew the world's biocore. But instead of the usual solemn ritual, she turned it into a celebration. She wove earth folk songs into Virilian star chants, summoned auroras that danced to jazz rhythms, and filled the sky with floating lanterns shaped like blueberries. The entire planet rejoiced. Even the ancient seers wept, not from sorrow, but from joy so profound it felt like coming home. It was during that festival that Saren approached her parents beneath the ancestral tree, now twice its original size, its branches heavy with luminous fruit. "I've been dreaming again," she said softly, but this time her eyes held no fear, only quiet certainty. "Not of danger, of connection. There are others like me, scattered across the galaxy. Quiet sparks waiting to be kindled." She smiled. "I think it's time I went to find them." Lyra's heart clenched, but she nodded. She remembered her own youth, the fear, the longing, the need to choose her own path. Joran squeezed her hand, his eyes glistening. "Just promise you'll come back for pancakes," he said, voice thick. "I'll bring friends," Saren replied, grinning. "Maybe even teach them how to make earth coffee. You'll need help drinking all of it." Her journey became legend. Aboard a ship grown from living crystal and powered by song, Saren traveled to distant worlds, healing rifts, awakening dormant harmonies, and gathering a new generation of luminars. Not as weapons or saviors, but as friends, artists, teachers. She never fought unless she had to. Her greatest power was her ability to make others see their own light. Decades later, on a warm evening when the twin moons aligned in perfect harmony, the family gathered once more on the starfall balcony. Lyra's white hair now held streaks of silver that shimmered like stardust. Joran's steps were slower, but his eyes still sparkled with mischief. Around them stood not just Saren, but her own children, 3 bright souls with green skin, white hair, and eyes that held the blue of Earth's oceans and the gold of Verilian suns. Saren had married a gentle sylvan musician named Rael, whose songs could make mountains weep and deserts bloom. Their love was quiet, deep, and full of laughter. And as their children played among the moonblossoms, chasing fireflies that blinked in rhythm with their grandmother's heartbeat, the palace hummed with a joy so pure it resonated across the stars. Queen Zanara, now long retired but still sharp as a comet's edge, sat in a chair woven from memory vines, watching her great-grandchildren with tears in her eyes. She reached for Lyra's hand. "You gave me more than grandchildren," she whispered. "You gave me a legacy that sings." That night, as the family shared a meal of slightly burnt blueberry pancakes, Joran insisted on making them himself. Saren raised a glass of starlight nectar. "To home," she said, "wherever and whoever it is." And in that moment, under a sky alive with constellations named after heroes, lovers, and botanists who believed in impossible things, they knew the story wasn't ending. It was blooming, for love had not just survived the darkness, it had seeded a universe of light. And in the heart of the celestial spire, surrounded by family, laughter, and the quiet magic of 1,000 shared tomorrows, they lived, not just happily, but boundlessly, beautifully, forever.